PlayStation first-party IPs are some of the most popular and well-known video games over the past 2 decades, receiving titles like Uncharted, God of War, Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us. Many of the best single-player titles have come from PlayStation, but one title that is rarely talked about but has outsold many of these games is Horizon Zero Dawn. This title has over 20 million sales since its launch in 2017. Wait, that was 9 years ago? Damn, that makes me feel old. Putting that aside though, this game was a major hit, and inevitably got a sequel in Horizon Forbidden West, and has gotten a few spin-offs that I don't think anyone really asked for, but we got them anyway. This title honestly gets a fair amount of criticism from fans claiming it's an industry plant and other things along those lines. But I think Horizon Zero Dawn is a really enjoyable experience that has some mechanics I haven't really seen done in other games. But I do think there are a fair amount of lacking aspects that hold it back from truly being great. But before we get into this video, it would mean a lot if you could like, comment, hype up this video, and subscribe as we are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. With that being said, let's get right into it. Something you come to expect from PlayStation IPs is for the game to look beautiful, to have ultra realistic graphics and really just push things from a visual perspective. And Horizon Zero Dawn carries that exact same trend. This world is a marvel to look at, with such variety in different locations to explore, unique environments, climates. There is a lot to offer here, and I would be sad in the photo mode constantly, just taking these gorgeous screenshots of the scenery, with places ranging from the Sacred Lands with its forests, valleys, mountains, the snowed-in landscapes and peaks in the northern portions of the map, the Sundom, which consists of a desert with canyons flooding the surrounding areas, and lastly the Jewel, which offers a lush tropical jungle terrain. There is so much variety here that makes each area feel distinct, but what makes the world so interesting here is not how pretty it is, even though that is a plus, but it's the lore and context of the setting that really pulls you in. Horizon Zero Dawn is a post-apocalyptic game, but it really carves out its own twist on the setting. The game takes place nearly 1,000 years after a global apocalypse, and many people have been pushed back to tribal lives. Animal-like machines dominate the world and landscape, along with the ruins of a high-tech civilization scattered across the open world. So this game offers a fantastic mix of nature and technology throughout the setting that really gives a unique feel to a post-apocalyptic world. It is vibrant and colorful, which contrasts the typical bleakness you get from these settings, and this world takes direct inspiration from real life, as this is located in Colorado, Utah, and some of northern Arizona. So we get a wide range of similar geographical locations ranging from mountains, lakes, canyons, and even some rundown buildings and cities that resemble real-life counterparts. Horizon Zero Dawn crafts a very unique world to explore, and that is because its premise stands out, and you watch some gameplay and think, I've never seen something like that before. It instantly hooks you as the viewer. But for me, the most important aspect of an open world is not its premise or setting. It is the big question of how enjoyable is it to explore. Open worlds for me can be very hit or miss because so much rides on whether or not I'm going to have a good time exploring the world and find the gameplay loop of it to be engaging. And I do think this is where the game slightly falters. It's nothing terrible, but the exploration at no point hooked me. I didn't fall in love with the world at hand and become immersed. Unfortunately, I just simply didn't feel much as I explored, and it didn't feel alive. I think the NPCs are partially to blame for this, as they just don't feel real. This is going to be a constant theme throughout this video, but I don't think this title came close to maximizing the potential of the concept for this game. When you hear the idea of a post-apocalyptic world overrun by animal-like machines, and you seeking to discover how the world got to this point, it's awesome. And then it just never does much with it. The locations and cities are beautiful visually, and then I don't feel the exploration reaches the heights it needs to. These points of interest seem intriguing, but then they just don't amount to much. I don't think it's all terrible though, as the objective-based quests were honestly pretty good. So things like the long leg vantage points, bandit camps, and cauldrons, all of these activities that would typically be some of my least favorite aspects of a game, were some of my favorites here. They worked well with the world at hand. There was no blow to them as it felt like they were the perfect amount. And in terms of gameplay, they were a lot of fun to engage with since I loved the combat here. But the side quests themselves was where I was more disappointed. Besides a few of the ones where you got alliances for the final mission, like Aaron's storyline was one of the better ones in the game, Sona's quests were decent along with a few others, but outside of that, there aren't many quests that intrigued me at all. What I want out of side quests are to build up the world around you and give you memorable, unique moments that you would never experience in the main story. But here it just feels like it was riding on its great gameplay and focused all of it on that without much interesting stories within them. It all felt fairly fetch questy, which was unfortunate for me. And for some reason the level scaling is just really weird. A quest would say level 10 and then I'd be facing level 25 machines. But outside of the side content, the world is enjoyable to simply walk around and explore. From the constant encounters with enemies, harvesting items through the world, you never felt like you were walking around the world aimlessly. As along with that, traversal was solid with you being able to hack and ride the ammo machines, which I found to be a really cool way to tie in some of the story beats to the gameplay. I found all the traversing engaging enough that I rarely fast traveled until maybe the late game when I was just quickly finishing some things before beating the story. Overall, I found the open world to simultaneously be a strong point, but also a place for improvement. Conceptually, it is great, and the world is gorgeous to take in. There are constant enemies to fight to keep you in the loop, and the basic activities are implemented well. It's just that I struggle to get immersed in the world, or simply care about it, and that blame falls to its side content and NPCs. The combat in Horizon Zero Dawn is easily the best aspect of the game. This is what carried my experience as a whole and what kept me enjoying my time with this title. From top to bottom, it was one of the more unique gameplay experiences I've had from an open world game. I think my favorite aspect about it was the sheer variety in the fights themselves. The basic rundown of this combat system is that you want to focus on targeting the enemy's body parts that have weaknesses. So you want to scan them and target that weak point. And you accomplish that with a decent variety of ranged weapons along with your spear. Even though I basically only really used the spear and bow, having this weakness aspect leveled up the combat from merely being a hit and dodge system, but adds some strategy in how you attack them. I found this consistently engaging from start to finish and felt like it was just enough of a challenge as well as I played through it. One of my favorite aspects of turn-based games is the strategy side of learning an enemy's weaknesses and planning out your attack from there. Obviously this game doesn't reach those heights, but there was that slight level of scanning the enemy, seeing his weak body parts, knowing what elements he had weaknesses and affinities to, and then choosing your weapon from there. Each new encounter with an enemy was intriguing, and the variety in enemies goes past simply their weaknesses, but also how they fight you. You have certain machines that charge at you continuously, like the Charger and Broadhead. Machines who have shields and can shoot electricity at you, like the Shellwalker. You have airborne machines like the Stormbird and Glinthawk. And you also have absolute units in the Rockbreaker and Thunderjaw. And those are just some of the kind of enemies you have in this game, as there are so many more that have unique traits and movesets. All of these machines have their own tendencies, weaknesses, strengths, and attack patterns. It truly creates a phenomenal combat loop and is probably Horizon Zero Dawn's greatest strength. You also have humans to fight, but there's a lot less variety there and they're just a lot easier to kill in comparison to the machines, but I still enjoyed fighting them in the bandit camps. So with all this variety in enemies, it's only fair to give the same energy to the weapons. which they do give. Like I've already mentioned, it focuses heavily on the ranged aspect of combat compared to melee, with us having multiple kinds of bows like the hunter bow, sharpshot bow, and war bow, all having their own unique strengths, like having a fast fire rate, dealing heavy damage, or focusing more on elemental attacks. You also have slings to throw bombs, trip casters to stun enemies, a rope caster to tie and slow them down, a rattler and tear blaster that focuses more on close range attacks. I ended up basically getting by with only the bows, but to get most out of the combat, it is fun to try out all the different weapons and know where they are useful within fights. It offers such a great deal of variety, as on top of that, you have different elements and ammo types you can use for each weapon, so again, just another layer of depth to work with to most effectively take out the machines. To go along with all of that, you have the upgrading of your weapons. Now, Horizon Zero Dawn goes at it in a slightly different manner. You are never upgrading the weapon itself. You only end up replacing the buffs it has through something called coils. This is where you improve the damage, the handling for all your ranged weapons, and things along those lines. So it's important to constantly gather these coils from enemies and always try to upgrade your damage, as besides a few skills, this is really the only place that you can increase damage output. But lastly, you have your spear, which is given the least customization unfortunately, as I did end up using this a lot throughout the game. It was great for knocking down machines and dealing heavy damage. The ranged combat is definitely the focus, but I thoroughly enjoyed using the spear. And most of the upgrading for it comes through the skill tree, as there's no different stronger ones to buy or coils you can attach to it. And talking about the skill tree, I think it's fantastic here. Very often skill trees can be disappointing for me because they offer such meaningless and small upgrades that never really change how you go about playing the game. But here the upgrades really improve the experience. You have 4 different skill trees if you include the one from the DLC. The Prowler skills that focus on stealth, Brave skills that focus on direct combat, Forger skills help with resource gathering, healing, and crafting, and lastly the Traveler skills which come from the DLC, which help with resources and mounts. These skills are so useful because they give noticeable and direct upgrades on the gameplay. Skills like a longer concentration window, higher strike damage from stealth, that is actually noticeable, knocking down enemies faster, increasing medicine pouch size. These are all upgrades that you can see and change how you play the game, and you feel stronger with them. This isn't no 2.5% damage increase skill like some games do. Overall, the combat is easily the strongest aspect of this game for me, and where I found the most enjoyment. Now, the story for Horizon Zero Dawn is a hard one to deal with, because there are a lot of concepts I like, and the plot is interesting, but I personally think they failed to execute well on a lot of these ideas. The premise of the story is that we play as this girl named Aloy, in this post-apocalyptic world ruled by animal-like machines. She is an outcast to the Nora tribe and is raised by another outcast named Rost. We watch as she grows up in the opening, and the goal is to learn more about her mother, who she knows nothing about, and through this search it becomes a journey to learn more about our fallen world and how this apocalypse came to be. It sets up this very cool premise, and as the game goes on, your motivation and drive to go through each mission stems from the mystery and the curiosity to learn what happened 1,000 years ago to cause this disaster. Going through the opening few hours of this title, we get to watch Aloy grow up and be trained by Rost. Her ultimate goal is to win the Proving and be granted the chance to ask the matriarchs of the Nora tribe why she was an outcast, along with information on her mother. I enjoy these opening few hours of the game because I believe it does a good job of establishing our motives, some conflicts, the gameplay mechanics like stealth, combat, using our focus, and we also learn about parts of the world and its mystery, especially where Aloy discovers the ancient ruins and acquires the focus. So from the jump, we solidify the mix between nature and technology and the journey Aloy must go on. we really get to see her and Rost's dynamic through the start of this game, which I enjoyed, as I think this title really struggles with its characters, but they do a decent job with it here. I don't think it's anything amazing, but the idea of them being these two outcasts not allowed to speak to anyone but themselves creates an interesting dynamic. They are truly the only people in their lives and must rely on one another. Rost trains Aloy to win the Proving so she no longer has to live her life as an outcast and is willing to completely remove himself and disappear from her life once she wins. This builds and sets up the inevitable mission to where we tackle the Proving to become a brave and get the information we need. The Proving quest is fantastic. I ultimately wish we got more stuff like it. It does a great job creating tension and bad blood between you and some of the other participants.
I see you've still got a scar from where that rock I threw hit you. Now that's a cherished memory.
The idea of Aloy being an outcast and having these conflicts was really interesting. But once she wins the Proving, those conflicts just end. I think this game could have done a lot more with some of the different tribes and cultures throughout, and flesh out and create some more key moments throughout the narrative. But after we win the Proving, we are attacked by the Shadow Carja. This wipes out every single participant, and they even end up killing Rost, which I think was poorly done. I would have enjoyed Rost remaining a character for at least more time in the story, or at least handle his death better here. And at least within the main story, he is just forgotten about completely, unless you choose to go visit his grave, which honestly has some great moments if you do. But from here is where the story really kicks itself off and the main plot of the game gets underway. After surviving the attack, we learn about our origins, how we were not born from a woman and we were found at the door of the Allmother. With the matriarchs unsure of our nature, we were exiled. But now we are granted the title of Seeker, to go out in the world and uncover the origins of this attack and what has transpired. Horizon Zero Dawn's main focus in this story is its mystery, and throughout these main missions we slowly uncover more information and learn more about it. We begin to unravel secrets of the old ones, we see machines getting corrupted, we eventually learn about different projects like Operation Enduring Victory and Project Zero Dawn. I've already stated this, but conceptually so many of these ideas are fantastic. This is such a twist on typical apocalypse worlds, and the way it came to be is truly interesting. I love the blend of technology and nature, but I struggle to enjoy the revelations that occur throughout this narrative. Some of them are awesome, which I'll get into, but even those awesome reveals get held back by the execution of it. It's probably my biggest issue throughout this game, but the way they present information to you as the player, to put it plainly, is boring. You go through this really cool rundown high-tech ancient ruin and find some hologram at the end, explaining things about the past, and it's rinse and repeat of that. I don't necessarily find the missions themselves to be repetitive, but the way they choose to reveal these truths of the past just falls short. These should be monumental scenes in the game, but they do nothing in terms of presentation to make it feel that way. There's no cutscene or anything, there's just holograms popping up and talking, and you can walk around as it happens. This same issue applies to small lore bits and history you can uncover in these ruins. There are typically audio logs scattered across these places for you to listen and hear about people's experience during some of these final days. And a lot of these audio logs are phenomenal and add great emotional weight to what happened then. But they don't execute it well here. My favorite aspect about audio logs is that you can continue to walk around and play as you listen to them. But there are just so many of these audio logs that all the exploration boils down to picking one up, standing or walking around until it finishes, and then picking up the next one. BioShock, in comparison, executes this idea infinitely better. But the lore and reveals by themselves are great. It really fleshes out the apocalypse more and how it came to be. It's easily the best part of the story. My two favorite reveals throughout the game are Operation Enduring Victory and Ted Faro's erasure of humanity's past. Operation Enduring Victory is a gruesome reveal of how millions died just to give a few extra months to scientists to work on Project Zero Dawn. The soldiers were sold a lie that this project was a weapon to save humanity, but in reality, humanity was already doomed. It was sealed that every human was going to die. This project was not to save anyone, but to bring back life to the planet once it was rendered unlivable. It is just a heavy reveal of the situation these people were in, and the amount of lives lost on a lie just to give humanity a chance of existing hundreds of years down the line. And then probably my favorite reveal was Ted Faro destroying Apollo. Throughout the creation of Gaia, the AI that would help bring humanity back, it had different functions with different names. Some to fix the atmosphere, create machines to fix the environment, etc. One of them was named Apollo, and this preserved all human history so that it could teach the new wave of humans everything, so they wouldn't have to start from zero. Ted Faro proceeded to destroy the entire database of Apollo. All the history, science, art, gathered from thousands of years of human existence, erased. And after revealing this to the Alphas, who were the leads on Gaia, he vented the atmosphere from the room they were in and killed them all so they could not restore Apollo. His reasoning was that human knowledge is a curse, that they must give humanity a clean slate, a sense of innocence so they don't repeat the same mistakes. But many believe, and so do I, that it was just his ego not wanting the new world to know that he was the one to damn Earth into extinction. He wanted his legacy preserved. And for the new world not to know that he was the one that created these machines that are destroying the planet. These reveals are fantastic. I'm realizing it even more writing this video, which makes me even more annoyed with how they choose to present these moments. These reveals and twists aren't just good conceptually, they are just great in general, but they are so poorly revealed. The Ted Faro twist is so great, but it feels so inconsequential in the actual plot of the game and how they present it to you. And it just sucks because the lore and history of the apocalypse and extinction are really well done. But the game doesn't allow these scenes to hit the way that they need to. Same can be said with other reveals like Aloy being a genetic clone of Dr. Sobek and never actually having a mother. But I want to actually speak about Aloy here, as I think she is a great protagonist. She is easily the best character in this game, and I'm so grateful for that, because the side cast in Horizon Zero Dawn is just aggressively mediocre. I find maybe 2 or 3 characters decent. Everyone else just doesn't feel real. The other 2 characters that were solid outside of Aloy were Erend and definitely Silence. But even still, it's not like I thought they were great or anything. Silence was definitely good, as he's like the only other prevalent character throughout the narrative. But back to Aloy, she is a really enjoyable character to play as. She has some great aspects here that I honestly think should have been explored more. Especially her relationship with the Nora tribe. One of my favorite scenes of the game is when she comes back to the tribe and is able to open the metal door to the Allmother. All of a sudden, she is practically being worshipped by the tribe, seen as this prophet to save all of them. She can do no wrong and was the anointed. Aloy is so angered by this flippant personality, calling out their hypocrisy.
Nora. First you shunned me, now this?
She states that she is not of the Nora tribe, that she does this for the entire world, not just for them, and demands them to stop seeing her as a deity. This is fantastic stuff, and I love the religious commentary that's done here. How she went from this outcast being shamed and verbally abused to practically being worshipped. I wish we dove a bit more into that plotline, as it's basically just one scene and never addressed again. I feel that way with a lot of the story beats, that they don't allow basically any to sit with the player for a period of time. We get this big moment, then boom, quest finished, next one. I sometimes don't feel the ripple effects of previous events bleeding into following missions. But through all these different reveals and events, we've been slowly learning about our villain of the game in Hades. This was one of the functions of Gaia. The idea of bringing life to a planet again is a difficult one, so Gaia might not get it right the first time. So it became the job of Hades to wipe out any failed attempts so Gaia can start again and create a world that is habitable. But at some point Hades goes rogue and follows its only command, which is to destroy the world, even though the current Earth is one that is a livable one. Gaia tried stopping Hades by self-destructing, but it lived, and through the help of Silence and the Shadow Carja, was able to get within touching distance of destroying the world. By connecting to the Spire and waking up all former Pharaoh robots that previously destroyed the world all those years ago. So in our final mission, we seek to stop it, with the help of all of our alliances that we have built through the entire game. This plotline was fairly boring to me. I feel like the highs of the story definitely came from the mystery of the apocalypse and how that occurred, but this storyline just never really hit at all. Even through all this build up to the final mission, I could just never care about what was going on. But the final mission in of itself is decent with a pretty cool all-out fight going on, but during this, Hades was able to get to the Spire and trigger the event. The final boss was kind of disappointing with it just being another destroyer. I wanted something a bit grander than that, like this is the end of the world. It didn't really feel up to that scale, but we are able to defeat Hades and stop the transmission, saving the world. We get some enjoyable final scenes where Aloy finds Sobek's body, and Silence captures a fragment of Hades to interrogate it, which I think will probably be a big plot point in the sequel Forbidden West. The ending was decent, but didn't really hit for me. It wraps things together well, but I beat it and all I thought was, that was cool. Obviously I'm not expecting to be blown away by every game's ending, but I wanted a bit more in the conclusion of Hades and that fight. Overall though, as a story, I had a solid time with it. I wouldn't say it's anything amazing, but it definitely had all the blocks there to have been something great. I just don't think they nailed the execution of it. Horizon Zero Dawn was nearly great. I think it had all the pieces there, with a fleshed out and unique combat system, an interesting world with good lore, a beautiful setting, an intriguing story premise. But I think it failed in maximizing the potential of all of these ideas. The combat was great, I have no issues there, but in terms of some of its exploration, side content, characters, and handling of the story, I believe it falls a bit flat. I don't think any aspect of this game is downright bad by any means, but it could have been so much more. I still had a good time with Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm pumped to inevitably play its sequel. My final score of Horizon Zero Dawn is a 7.4 out of 10. If you did make it to the end of today's video, thank you guys so much for watching. Your support means the absolute world to me. If you did enjoy today's video, it would mean a lot if you could like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. Again, thank you guys so much for your support. I will see you in the next video, and God bless.